Here at RG Construction, scissors lifts and boom lifts are a critical part to getting our jobs done. The following are some excerpts from a training session we had addressing both the basic use and safety for these two types of lifts.
The first is an electric scissor lift. It's a slab machine. It's designed for running on flat, level, hard surfaces. Those tires don't work on grass or gravel. They don't work on an uneven surface. There's a level sensor in there. Don't disable it. Imagine this lift at a little bit of an angle, couple 3 degrees, and you go up 20 feet and you drop a plumb bob from this outside rail. It's not going to be next to the machine, it's going to be 2 feet away, so it's an unstable position. The next kind of lift is a rough terrain scissor lift. It's a scissor lift, it's a platform, goes straight up and down. They're much bigger. They have gasoline, propane, diesel engines. They have higher lifting capacities. They're a little more tolerant of unlevel surfaces. They go from 20 to 53 feet or thereabouts. The really big ones have outriggers. Once you get above 35 feet or so, you have to deploy the outriggers, and that's for the stability of the machine. The machine will not go up above that. Electric booms are like that machine. They typically have a smaller basket. They're 20 to 45 feet or thereabouts. They're heavy for the most part. They have small baskets. They're designed for industrial applications. They have a unique feature in that most of the electric boom lifts have electric drive motors. This lift has a hydraulic drive motor. The actual motors in the wheel are hydraulic. They're driven by a hydraulic pump. The problem with an electric boom lift is the electric motors have no braking effect if you're on a ramp. And this is a real safety item. If you're on a ramp with one of those lifts, then you need to go very slowly. It doesn't really matter whether you go slowly. As soon as you take a drive function, the brakes release and it starts going downhill. There's no braking effect in those motors, so it will just continue to pick up speed until you release the controller. Then there's rough terrain boom lifts, like that machine. That's a rough terrain. That one happens to be a Z45. They also make straight ones. You've all probably seen those. Big aggressive tires, gasoline, propane, or diesel. They are pretty tolerant of unlevel surfaces. If you have to work on a level surface, unlevel surface, those will work usually. What do you do to actually operate these lifts safely? The first thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to read the operator's manual. The operator's manual is what you need. If there's any question, it's in this black box. It tells you everything you need to know about the lift, and realistically there's about 4 or 5 pages. If you get into a lift and you're not sure how it operates, the controls are different or whatever, there's usually about 4 or 5 pages in the center of the lift that tells you how to run it. And there's other things in there, floor loadings, what kind of electricity, warnings about electricity, all kinds of things. So the operator's manual is important.
Every rental, every lift has an operator's manual in the box.
Right.
That's a rule.
Yeah. So now what do we do to operate safely? What are the OSHA requirements basically to run a lift safely? Okay. We're supposed to inspect the machine. That's the first step, is we're supposed to inspect the machine. And what does that mean? I mean, you guys are out there doing what you do, but things like opening these battery trays and the hydraulic tray. Check the batteries. They typically have little quick releases like that. If every Monday you have to put water in, 2 or 3 Mondays in a row, call us. There's a problem with the battery or the charger, okay? And you just do a quick walk around. You look in here at the cylinders and the hoses and the wires and things and make sure everything's in place, that there's nothing going on in there. Look at the structure. There have been in the past structural failures with this kind of equipment. The manufacturers have gotten much better at designing and building this stuff, so that's becoming rare, but take a look at it. One of the things you're supposed to do is you're supposed to function test it. So if you want to get up there and drive it and we just function tested from the chassis. It goes up, it goes down. It's a little more involved with the boom because you can do everything but steer and drive. But now Robert's going to get up there, he's going to drive it, go up a few feet in the air, bring it down from the chassis, drive it, steer it. Make sure those controls are all working. That gives you the best opportunity, the highest probability of when you actually go up in the air, it's going to come down, it's going to do what you need to do. The rails, the mid and top rail, and fall protection, just like on that scaffold up there. You've got a mid and top rail. That's fall protection. That's what keeps you in the lift. And it's important, you notice Robert hooked the gate. hook that chain. It's important to do that because if you don't, you can go out underneath it. And that has happened, and probably, it doesn't happen too often, but you don't want it to happen at all. And the reason for all of these kind of safety features is so that when you're concentrating on taping or whatever it is you're doing and you're walking along that lift, if you forget, because you're focused on what you're doing, you're going to run into something that's going to keep you from getting hurt, okay? This one is easy. It's got a little tank here for radiator level, so you can see that. There's oil, engine oil. This one has a no maintenance battery. The fuel tank and the hydraulic tank are on the other side. Make sure the fuel is full, and take a look at the hydraulic tank. You know, the hydraulics usually aren't an issue unless there's a leak and you can see those. And if you think it's low, make sure that all the cylinders are retracted fully. Because if they're extended, oil is pumped out of the tank into the cylinder. So if you got a couple cylinders that are extended, you add hydraulic fluid, you can have a problem when it comes back. Every day with a rough terrain machine, I want you to check the fuel. It's critical. It's really critical if it's a diesel. If you got a diesel, you run a diesel out of fuel, you got a major problem. Most of them don't restart without a service call. And clearly you don't want to run out of fuel anyhow, because I mean, if you're up in the air, you're out of fuel, you got a problem. Then the other thing that you need to do daily is the tires. First of all, on bigger booms, the tires are foam filled. And the tip off for foam filled tires, you'll see a hole with a bolt in it in all four wheels. Or you can just go to the air valve, and if no air comes out, it's foam filled. You don't have to do anything with those. But with pneumatic tires, which are the smaller booms, 60 and below, almost all the rough terrain scissor lifts, you need to check those every day. The stability, the stiffness of this sidewall is very much part and parcel of the design of the machine and the stability of the machine. And it requires a certain amount of air pressure. Now these are very low profile tires. A lot of the manufacturers of the booms have gone to these. They're very stiff in and of themselves, but they still need air in them. So how do you check it? You got a hammer. Most guys have a hammer or a big vice grip. And what you do is you go along, you walk around and you hit it, you thump it. And it'll give you a distinctive bell tone. These are a little more difficult because I probably would hit the side of this. But the taller profile tires, they'll give you a very clear bell tone kind of sound. If you ever watch a truck driver, go to a truck stop and watch these guys when they get done with their coffee or their break or whatever, they take a bat, a ball peen hammer, they walk around and they tap all the tires. That's how they check them. The tire pressure is listed in the operator's manual. We mentioned the operator's manual. This is where you need to go for everything. It is listed in the owner's manual. Never use the tire pressure that's on the sidewall. These tires are designed for, most of them are designed for truck or trailer applications, so they're designed to be driven down the highway 60, 70 miles an hour. They build up a lot more heat, a lot more pressure. We're not doing that. We're going very slowly. We're going 100 feet at a time. And they all, you know, a typical tire pressure on a sidewall, on a DOT, Department of Transportation tire, is 35 max PSI, something like that. I think the lowest I've ever seen an aerial is 45 pounds, and they go up to 60, 70, 80 pounds of pressure. So daily, the fuel and the tires, okay? Again, we do a function test. Start the motor if it's cold out. You know, you want to let these things warm up for a few minutes, you know, depending on the temperature, 5-10 minutes. It's pumping 20, 30 gallons of hydraulic fluid. If it's cold out, that stuff is cold and stiff. The motors are cold, just like your car. It takes a bit for them to operate properly.
Next, you need to do a function test. Start the lift from the chassis and test the boom to ensure it lifts up and down as well as forward and backwards. When entering the basket of the boom, ensure you are wearing your safety harness and are properly tied off to an approved attachment point. The harness is there to keep you from being ejected from the basket. Inspect the job site for power lines. You must stay a minimum of 10 feet away from all power lines. Inspect the job site for debris and terrain that may affect the ability to move the lift safely. While working in a lift, under no circumstance should you stand on the railing or use a ladder or other object to raise you above the floor of the basket. Finally, if you have any questions on the proper use of a lift or experience any problems with a lift, please check with your supervisor or foreman right away. Your attention to these safety precautions, common sense, and proper lift operation will help prevent useless accidents.